Traumatic intelligence does not emerge from classrooms, structured learning, or deliberate practice. Instead, it is shaped by necessity, by environments where uncertainty, emotional instability, or unpredictability were part of everyday life. Individuals who developed this form of intelligence often had to become highly perceptive at a very young age, not out of curiosity, but out of survival. Their nervous system learned to constantly scan for subtle signals, detect emotional shifts, and anticipate possible outcomes before they happened. This continuous state of awareness allowed them to respond quickly and protect themselves in situations where safety was not guaranteed. Over time, this adaptive response becomes deeply ingrained, forming a cognitive style that is both fast and precise. Unlike traditional intelligence, which is often associated with knowledge or academic ability, traumatic intelligence is rooted in experience and environmental pressure. It is not something that is consciously chosen or developed with intention, but rather something the brain builds automatically under stress. As a result, these individuals often possess a level of awareness and sensitivity that seems unusually sharp, but it reflects a system that had to evolve quickly in order to cope. Their intelligence is not simply about thinking better, but about surviving smarter. Psychological research suggests that trauma does not only leave damage, it can also sharpen certain cognitive and emotional abilities in highly specific ways. Children who grow up in unstable or emotionally unpredictable environments often develop an increased sensitivity to patterns in behavior, tone, and nonverbal communication. Their brains adapt by becoming more alert to subtle changes in their surroundings, especially those related to potential threat or emotional tension. Regions such as the amygdala, which processes emotional responses, and the prefrontal cortex, responsible for decision-making and interpretation, become more actively engaged in detecting and analyzing these signals. Over time, this creates a form of intelligence that operates largely beneath the surface. It is not always visible in traditional measures of intelligence, but it is constantly at work internally. These individuals are continuously interpreting emotional data, anticipating reactions, and making sense of complex social dynamics. Their strength lies not in what they openly display, but in how deeply they perceive and process the world around them, often noticing patterns and meanings that others completely overlook. One of the most defining traits of traumatic intelligence is the ability to read a room almost instantly. Without a single word being spoken, these individuals can sense subtle shifts in energy, tension, or emotional discomfort. This is not intuition in a mystical sense, but a highly refined form of pattern recognition developed over time. Their brain has been trained to detect microexpressions, body language, tone, and environmental cues at a rapid and often unconscious level. In the past, this constant scanning served as a protective mechanism, helping them anticipate potential threats or emotional changes before they escalated. Over time, this process becomes automatic, requiring little conscious effort. They are not deliberately analyzing every detail. Instead, their mind processes patterns faster than most people can notice them. This allows them to understand the emotional dynamics of a situation almost immediately, often before others are even aware of what is happening. As a result, they tend to respond more carefully and strategically, guided by a deep, instinctive awareness of the environment around them. People with traumatic intelligence often develop a deep and heightened sensitivity to the emotional states of others. They can sense when someone is struggling, even when that person appears calm or says nothing is wrong. This form of hyper-empathy is not simply a personality trait, but a learned adaptation shaped by early experiences. Growing up in environments where emotional shifts could signal safety or danger, they learn to closely monitor the feelings, tone, and behavior of those around them. Over time, this constant attention to emotional detail becomes automatic. They begin to pick up on subtle cues, changes in expression, posture, or energy that most people overlook. As a result, they not only understand others on a deeper level, but often feel those emotions as if they were their own. This can lead them to instinctively prioritize the needs of others, sometimes even before their own. While this ability allows for strong emotional connections and deep compassion, it can also become overwhelming, as they absorb and carry emotional weight more intensely than most people. Another defining trait of traumatic intelligence is the ability to remain calm and think clearly under pressure. In situations where most people feel overwhelmed or panic, these individuals often become more focused, alert, and strategic. This response is linked to what psychologists describe as stress inoculation. Because they were exposed to high pressure or unpredictable environments early in life, their nervous system adapted to function efficiently in stress rather than shut down. Instead of freezing, their mind shifts into problem-solving mode, quickly analyzing options and identifying practical solutions. This makes them particularly effective in crises, where fast thinking and emotional control are essential. However, this strength also reveals something deeper about their internal state. Their brain has become so accustomed to tension that high levels of stress can feel normal, even familiar. As a result, they may unconsciously operate best in challenging situations, while calm or stable environments can feel unfamiliar or difficult to adjust to. Individuals with traumatic intelligence often develop a deep and persistent tendency to analyze human behavior. They replay conversations, question underlying motives, and search for meaning behind even the smallest actions. This pattern did not arise randomly. It was shaped by the need to understand unpredictable environments where behavior could shift without warning. By studying people closely, they were able to anticipate outcomes and protect themselves. Over time, this adaptive skill becomes an automatic mental process. Their mind is constantly observing, interpreting, and connecting behavioral patterns, often at a level others are not aware of. They can detect inconsistencies, hidden emotions, and subtle intentions with remarkable accuracy. However, this depth of analysis comes with a cost. Because their thinking rarely switches off, they can become trapped in cycles of overanalysis, revisiting situations long after they have passed. This makes them highly insightful and perceptive, but also mentally exhausted, as their brain continuously works to make sense of the complexity of human behavior. Traumatic intelligence often gives rise to a strong sense of self-reliance and independence. When support in early life was inconsistent, unpredictable, or absent, the brain adapted by learning to depend on itself as the most reliable source of safety and problem solving. These individuals do not naturally look outward for help. Instead, they turn inward, building solutions quietly and handling challenges on their own. Over time, this becomes their default way of functioning. They develop resilience, competence, and the ability to navigate difficult situations without external guidance. However, this independence is not simply a personality preference. It is a survival strategy shaped by past experiences. Because of this, asking for help can feel uncomfortable or even unsafe, as it goes against what their mind learned early on. While their self-sufficiency makes them highly capable, it can also create a sense of isolation, as they carry burdens alone rather than sharing them with others. Another defining feature of traumatic intelligence is a heightened level of emotional intensity and sensitivity. Individuals with this form of intelligence often experience emotions more deeply than those around them. Moments that might seem ordinary to others, such as a piece of music, an act of kindness, or a situation of injustice, can evoke strong and lasting emotional reactions. This heightened sensitivity is closely linked to increased activity in the amygdala, the part of the brain responsible for processing emotional experiences. Rather than simply observing emotions, they absorb and feel them on a much deeper level, as if the emotional experience is amplified. This depth allows for profound empathy and a nuanced understanding of human emotion, giving them the ability to connect with others in meaningful ways. However, it also comes with challenges, as the constant intensity can become overwhelming over time. Their inner world is often rich, layered, and complex, shaped by repeated emotional activation that has trained their mind to feel everything more vividly and deeply. For individuals shaped by traumatic intelligence, trust becomes a far more complex and carefully regulated process. They often struggle to trust easily, not because they are inherently negative or distant, but because their brain has learned through experience to be cautious. Early environments may have shown them that not every signal of safety is genuine, and that trust can sometimes lead to harm. As a result, their mind develops what psychologists call adaptive skepticism, a protective filtering system that evaluates people, intentions, and situations before allowing emotional openness. This internal filter operates quietly but consistently, making them more selective about who they let into their lives. While this can sometimes create distance or a sense of isolation, it also shapes the quality of their relationships. When they do choose to trust someone, that trust is not casual or superficial. It is deeply considered and strongly rooted. Their connections may be fewer, but they tend to be more meaningful, honest, and resilient, built on a foundation of careful observation and genuine understanding. Finally, individuals with traumatic intelligence often experience a complex relationship with rest and an ongoing search for meaning. Even in calm or safe environments, their mind tends to remain alert, as if it is still scanning for potential signals or threats. Stillness can feel unfamiliar or even uncomfortable because their nervous system has been conditioned to stay active and responsive. As a result, relaxation is not automatic. It requires conscious effort and intentional practice. At the same time, this constant mental activity is often paired with a deep search for purpose. Having been exposed to hardship, emotional intensity, and complexity early in life, they are less likely to move through life passively. Instead, they reflect on experiences, question their significance, and seek to understand the deeper meaning behind both pain and growth. Research on post-traumatic growth suggests that these individuals can develop a more profound philosophical perspective, gaining clarity about what truly matters. They carry a quiet, grounded sense of wisdom, shaped by experience, often asking not just what life is, but why it holds meaning at all.